and Wayseeker enjoyer out there in the galaxy. It is I, Tara, returning triumphant to you as we start with our day one of the Wayseeker Book Club. I am 1 minute ahead of schedule, but I am going to go ahead and continue anyway. Just wanted to make sure and get the club up and running here on Twitter so that I could avoid any of that delay that happens when you start the space up. So now we're here and we're ready to start talking about Wayseeker. Wayseeker, as I wait for people to come into the space, Wayseeker is a book that has been released on May of this year. I see one person has arrived. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm just going to take a few minutes to speak and describe the book and everything as we wait for more people to go ahead and come into the space. Wayseeker is a book that was released this year following the conclusion of season 1 of the Acolyte last year in August or July, early August or late July, I forget. And Wayseeker is about Vernestra, who is an established High Republic character, and Indara, who made her premiere appearance in the Acolyte show. And sadly, met her doom in the Acolyte because they were not going to let her live to the end of that series. She actually dies in the very first episode. So it's pretty cool to come on here and to see Indara kind of get some backstory back when she's in like her early 30s, late 20s, Vernestra says in the book. And I see more people are coming in. Awesome. Welcome. Awesome to have you. And I'm just going to speak a few more minutes as we wait for a few more people to come in. And hopefully I remember how to run these because I cannot remember how to add an image, which is what I want to do. Is it share? Oh, there it is. Share via post. Okay, I'll remember it as we go on. But I did want to add just the guidelines for the book club. So I will add those as a comment until I remember how to add that as an image. Maybe Twitter switched things up on me since the last time I've been in here. So that's uploading right now. Okie doke. And so I have a whole bunch of questions prepared for today. Super excited to get started with you guys and discuss the book. We're only going to be discussing up to like the very end of chapter 10. I realized I made a mistake when I said we're going to discuss up to page 75 because I'm reading on Kindle instead of the actual book. And Kindle kind of like has different pages than the actual book that you hold in your hand. So for the future going forward, we're going to say, okay, up to this chapter, up to just that chapter. But I said page 75, which in Kindle is about the end of chapter 10, like the very beginning, like one page into chapter 11. So we're going to be discussing only up to there. And we're going to have about 4 weeks of this group. I'm super excited. And we're going to discuss about 70-ish pages every week until we get to the very end of the book. And I know some people have read all the way to the end. And if that's the case, then please try not to spoil it, for anybody that hasn't read that far yet. And we will just do things that way. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I am inviting some of you guys that are in here to be speakers right now. And if you don't have an invitation, but you want to speak, just go ahead and raise your hand if you have something to say, or you can drop a comment in the comments of this space, and I will read those. Excuse me. Okie dokie. So kicking off the WAYSEEKER book club, and welcome everybody who is here so far. I'm hoping that more people will go ahead and trickle in as the hour continues. But for everyone that's here, thank you for coming in and welcome. And we're going to go ahead and kick off. So I have a whole bunch of questions prepared. Our first question that we're going to go with up to about the end of chapter 10. So that is when Vernestra and Indara have just gotten back to Coruscant after the adventure with the pirates. And we've been introduced to the guy, Nilsson, who's in charge of the deal that went wrong that Indara foiled. And and Yaddle and all sorts of guys. so up to there, I want to know, what is everybody's favorite scene so far? If anyone wants to share, you can speak or like drop your comment to the space as well. Excuse me. Let's see what we got here. All right, awesome. Okay, great, Acolyte. Val says, I've only managed to read the first 7 chapters, but I don't mind spoilers for the next 3. It's because I only picked it up today. All right, perfect. Man, I have this lingering cough. It's the worst. I got sick like a month ago, and it's like, have the cough forever. Anyway, okay, so I think my favorite scene so far has got to be in the little place where Indara stops out for her bathroom break, right? And then she's kind of just minding her business, and the little person is like, oh, hey, do you want to have some beer? Do you want to get some food? And she's like, not really, but she can see how worried she is, she says. So she says, okay, I guess I'll get some food. And she goes and sits down and like sees that fight break out. And then this other guy comes in with that gun, and she leaps up and has to defend everybody. And then the little owner is like, oh, okay, here's your food. Thanks so much for coming in. So that was my favorite scene so far. What about you guys? I see Jamie, and you came on as a speaker.
Well, you gave it to me, so I figured I would. Right now, I made it up to chapter 17, so I'm going back to like the stuff that I bookmarked and paged to be able to talk about, so I would remember before that. For me, it wasn't really a scene as much as it was Vernestra's whole just attitude about things as they use her as a way of like sort of insight into the order and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So like I absolutely love when she's thinking about how she handles like failure, loss, and grief. But I also love her interactions with Indara just as we get to like chapter 10 there, right?
Yeah.
And Indara's like, I thought you thought I was inept and whatever, and she's like, no, you're a capable Jedi. You know, like it's so interesting to see like Indara, who's, well, we kind of see her in charge in the Acolyte, right? Like she seems very in charge until things unravel and she can't handle it, right?
Yes.
But it's interesting to see her after what is was obviously a very traumatic point in her life, coming back into this too. And Yaddle is just as much like, anyways, that's getting a little head spoiler, but she's just as interfering as like Yoda. My goodness. But just, like that whole perspective of a Mirielin who's like a century old, but is really only maybe in like equivalent to like, age of a 30 something year old, right? 30, 40-year-old. And the amount of like knowledge and like and stuff that she has. And I'm still going, we're looking at maybe a couple decades here between this and the Acolyte. How did she go from this to that?
Yeah.
I stopped reading at 17 when I saw that we were kind of going like for a certain amount of of it for a part, right? And I'm just
for sure.
It's so interesting to me. Just that's the sort of thing that's kind of sticking out to me right now. But yeah, that scene where she actually is like blunt with Indara of like, no, I see you as capable. Don't think like that. You did very well against the pirates, type thing.
And can you talk some more about what you mean by like how Vernestra was like the first thing you said, her I don't remember your exact words, but you were describing like her emotions and how she was reacting to things.
Yeah, that in fact, I have made that a quote on Blue Sky because I loved it so much. She's talking about, you know, like why she feels she's been successful as a Jedi. And when it came to failure or loss, I always acknowledged the emotion, let it wash over me, and grieved as I needed to. Then I put it aside, not letting it drive my actions. Some of the younger Jedi had taken that lesson to mean emotions and the connections they engendered were bad. And my heart hurt that they thought that cutting themselves off from connection was the way to be successful as a Jedi. Our connections with others gave us purpose as Jedi, but we could not let their fear become ours, and we could not let our personal worries drive our actions. That, to me, had always been the true meaning of the balance we Jedi strove towards, living without fear, loving and embracing the grief that ultimately came when such a strong connection was lost. The sweet and the bitter forever entangled. It was a simple lesson that was impossible to learn, and I had been trying for decades. So I read that and I just thought, oh my God, just the application of that to the entire series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the application of that to Osha, who very obviously had never grasped that, right? And Saul, who had never grasped that either.
Yeah, those are excellent points. How she has that wisdom, but she's over like 100 years old at this point.
Exactly. And she says even at that age, she still struggles with it.
Right.
But she also recognizes that her emotions are part of her and she has to deal with them before letting them go. Which I think is something that's very much lost out on when we talk about Jedi and where things go wrong.
Right. And I love that about the Acolyte in general, about this whole universe, is we get to see that they aren't really super perfect, you know? It's their first High Republic series that's on the screen. And I haven't read any of the High Republic books before this, but my understanding is that the other books really do delve into like all the failings and the triumphs of the Jedi and like every side of them. But this is the first time I'm really seeing on screen in depth, like not just, you know, Obi-Wan saying, oh, well, I kind of lied to you a little bit, but I'm still a perfect person. They're like, they're flawed human beings. They have all these powers, but they're not super perfect.
Exactly. Like you go with the prequels, like, or like the original series, and yeah, you've got Obi-Wan, who seems like this wise older mentor. And I love how, like, even through the High Republic books, the Acolyte, and then the other like movies and TV series now, they've really fleshed out more. Just to say, no, underneath, even before he died to Darth, underneath he was still just a person who was dealing with horribly huge emotions, because like the certain point of view thing, right?
Exactly.
He never actually forgave himself, I think. And it's the same sort of thing we see with so many, like, yeah, and that's the same thing we see going on in the Acolyte. No, none of them ever really forgave themselves, even down to that original team and what happens with them all.
Yes, I actually really love that about the show, how it wasn't just like, you know, because so many action films, especially in the 80s, were like, hey, I just killed a whole bunch of people, but I'm going to move on with my life. So, and in the Acolyte, it isn't. Yeah. In the Acolyte, it isn't that at all. It's like, hey, I accidentally killed a whole bunch of people, and it's going to torture me in every waking moment, which is like, appropriate.
Now, I haven't read all of the High Republic either yet. In fact, to me, I'm starting off with Vernestra young, because I've read the like basically Light of the Jedi, and then I'm kind of, and then oh crap, I can't remember the second one right now. And then I've kind of jumped ahead to this one because it's so linked in with the Acolyte, right? And I'm still kind of working my way along. But it's so interesting even just to go all the way back to Light of the Jedi. And I mean, all these different authors writing across this whole time of like basically the galaxy far, far away. And they're showing a progression, and because Vernestra's so long-lived, they can start with her as a Padawan and work her way through it. And I think to me, this book will probably even have more interest and more context for me when I get through her earlier stuff. So I'm kind of more coming in on her at the end in a way. But even Light of the Jedi, yeah, it's like, oh my goodness, this like whole like age of peace and so forth, and they're expanding and everything's going to be great. And then all of a sudden, the Nihil pirates, and it's like and it's the same sort of thing we see at the beginning of like Phantom Menace too, right? So and the Acolytes in that area of well, things are still going downhill here.
Right. Life is always happening and it's not always perfect. And sometimes it goes really bad.
And yeah, I mean, that's what we're seeing in the Acolyte, honestly. We're seeing, and to be honest, I think what this is leading to too, because we're seeing when things kind of go bad. And we can already see the start of that with like just even the rest of the Republic. Like, oh, we're not at that point yet, but we see it used in the battle.
Nice.
The nullifier, right? That's showing that the rest of the universe, not just Sith and stuff, are looking for ways to get around Jedi. Which gives you a whole look into like what people are feeling about them in some ways. Sure, it's criminals right now, but there's a senator involved. We know this.
Right. I want to read some of these comments that are in the chat. NC Fan number 99, you said, I've read the whole book, so I'm trying to be careful about what I do and don't talk about. Thank you. Super appreciate that. But I enjoyed the scene where we found out that all of the elders were feeding information to the pirates. Yeah. I thought it was a fresh take on the typical mole in the ranks narrative. Yes. Yeah, me too. And I actually that's one of my questions. I'll just skip ahead to that briefly and then come back to our favorite scenes, just because you brought it up, and that's right here on my sheet. So on that point, what did everybody think about the implications of the village council and who were all betraying each other to the pirates? It was a huge twist. It absolutely was. It was like, no one's loyal here. No one's like trying to help each other out. They're all out for themselves 100%. I was kind of blown away that it went that direction.
In some ways it made sense though.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
They were all doing it for their districts, not thinking about the fact that without the core city, they don't have what they need to run their districts anyways, right? Everyone's very myopic on their own thing. So
yeah,
like none of them were doing it to like make money off it or anything like that. They were just doing it because, like they were like, I don't want my people to starve. Yeah.
Everyone was just thinking of themselves, which, causes problems for everybody. So you have to, in an ideal society, you're going to think of what everybody else's needs are. And if you only do things for yourself, it's all going to break apart pretty soon. And it was actually a perfect example of that. They were all betraying each other and they all ended up getting screwed. Anybody else have
to talk here?
Sorry?
I think we're doing the same thing here. I'm like, is there anyone else who wants to talk here?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm monopolizing this, but yeah.
Your comments are awesome. Like, yeah, you're saying amazing things. And anyone else who wants to come on to speak, at the moment, everyone has an invitation to speak. I do have to watch it as more people come into the space because I can only invite like 10 people to speak at a time. So I have to make sure I don't invite too many people. But at the moment, everyone does have an invitation to speak. So we would love to have you come on to share your thoughts, or if you really don't want to, then leave your comment in the thread. Another thing I really liked about the whole betrayal was I loved how Vernestra, it's like what you were saying, Jamie, and how, Vernestra is like so like just her whole attitude is amazing to me in this book. And she was so over their shit. She was like, you know what? Everyone's lying. You all suck. No one here is innocent. And you all need to fess up and come clean. And they were like, excuse me? The shock. I am so shocked you would just say that. And she just didn't care. She was so over it. And it's kind of cathartic because, like, how many times in daily life do you wish you could just be like, okay, everyone, cut the crap right now. Let's just say what's really happening. There's so many times in real life when people are just being jerks and you just want to lay down the law. And she did. And I loved that for her. Just fantastic. So yeah, any other thoughts about that? Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I saw your comment too, to NC Fan 99, Jamian, you said yes, especially with the whole selfish but for their area, not for a point. Agreed. Yes, absolutely. Okay.
I mean, it was kind of blackmail they were all giving into in a way too, right? So
All
it was
right.
like,
Yeah.
It was a very weird twist. I wasn't expecting either. And so NC Fan 99 there. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, in fact, this part of her stays the same between the book and like the show for Destra.
Yeah.
She's so no nonsense, I'm not taking the shit type thing. But but by the time you hit the Acolyte, somehow she's become so embroiled in the politics that she hates. She hates it. She actually specifically says that she can't stand doing that.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's
you're
why she's
right.
off being a Wayseeker. And yet somehow, like, she's now having to like do that on the council.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, she totally hates the politics, but then in the Acolyte, she's totally all about, more than anyone else, she is the politics. So that's
you can see the distaste with her. She's doing it in the show, but she's also very, very good at it.
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting. Let's see what other comments we have here. Val said, you really liked Nilsson's introduction. He seems like a very interesting character. It's cool knowing how he's half human and has almost all human features, but has green eyes without pupils. I like those details. I'm excited to see what his role will be in the next chapters. Oh, absolutely. I try to imagine what Nilsson like looks like, and it just like definitely it would be so creepy to like see someone that really looks human, but it doesn't have the strength of a human. They're much stronger than a human, and he has those eyes. Absolutely. And he was very no nonsense too, which I really love in my villainous characters. I try not to be like negative, but as a warning, I kind of am sometimes. but so if you really like the Book of Boba Fett show, I'm not trying to put down your show. But that said, as someone who's a fan of Boba Fett, it was really annoying when they made him like this super like peaceful and like pacifist character. And it's like, you're not a pacifist, you're a ruthless bounty hunter. Why is this happening?
Yeah, your father did actually raise you very much as a Mandalorian, and you're a bounty hunter. So what?
Right.
I love the book. I loved it too, and I actually liked the fact that they tried to do like a political thing like that with him on a planet that wouldn't be
right.
Right. But at the same point, yeah, I agree with you there. I'm like, dude, no, this is a guy who's going to be getting on his blaster more than like often than you think. I think.
Yes, he's the one that like kills a whole bunch of people and legitimately doesn't care. So on that note with Nilsson, it's just nice. It's refreshing to see a villain that's really like, yeah, I'm just going to like kill this like senator's cousin or whatever. And it's just going to be fine. And I will deal with the consequences as they come, but it doesn't really matter because I'm a badass and I don't have to worry about consequences. I love that in my villains. It's just very satisfying.
Yeah, as an opponent, like villain, like antagonist, he is very interesting with that the way he is about things. I don't care that I'm lying to this guy about his cousin, but you know what? It furthers my means, whatever.
Yes, exactly. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next question. Yes. All right. So, next question. We did favorite scene, which was great. I loved hearing all that. Thank you for sharing. Next question is, what was your least favorite or something that made you really uncomfortable or something that made you really angry when you were reading the book? If there's anything, because now that I say that out loud, I can't really think of anything yet, but I'm sure there's something that was like, that's making me upset or uncomfortable or something along those lines. I think there was a droid. Let me think for a second. I'm pretty sure there was a droid. Oh,
yeah. The senator's droid attendant. I do like that they point out, that she's like, I don't know why anyone would make a droid look like that, but I was like, oh, well, you're giving us an interesting viewpoint here, but I guess, in some ways how they treat servants and
Right.
ones that have absolutely no option. I mean, in
Right.
comparison to like Vernestra's droid, who is very obviously one that she's just like, they've developed into a person, I'm letting them be their person.
Yeah,
And then you
Vernestra's
have
droid
that
is
one.
cool.
So
Yeah, for sure. I like Vernestra's droid a lot. I did.
reminds me of K2 from Andor
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Rogue One.
yeah. No, 100%,
Oh,
100%.
well, basically, like we have these, like in the shows, we shows and movies, we get those androids, like not just K2, but
Hmm.
oh, what's her name from the Millennium Falcon too, like from
Oh yeah, the one.
a Star Wars story,
Yeah, who ended up becoming the ship.
Solo, yeah,
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 yeah. She was cool. I liked her a lot. Solo's a good movie. I don't watch that often enough, but it's
yeah.
pretty good.
Too many people kind of like are meh about it, but I'm like, we got some awesome character depictions there. So
Right, exactly. Let's see. I do see. Tirana, you said. I'm still holding a grudge with Vernestra about what happens in The Acolyte, so it's hard for me to really sympathize, even though she's doing nothing wrong. I feel a little like Indara, where she thinks that Vern is a lot to deal with all caps. Yeah, Tirana, I love that. I really like Vernestra's character personally, but I totally see that because she's a bitch. Like she lied about Soul, and she's trying to cover up all this stuff. And I love bitchy characters, but it's not good. She's not a good person really in The Acolyte. So I totally see that for sure. And yeah, I could totally see how you wouldn't want to sympathize with her. It's like she hasn't done anything wrong yet, but yeah, she does have a big personality. Like Indara is very frustrated with her and really over her and just like, I don't want to deal with this right now. I feel sorry for Indara reading this.
yeah, I want to know what happened to Indara. What kind of trauma did she have that, like
Yes.
getting back into the universe and like in this way is like
Yes, we
has
need
her
to
reacting
know.
like that. But yes, Vernestra does act extremely high-handed at every point that she's dealing with Indara.
Yes. Such a handful. Like, tone it down, Vernestra. Jesus. And now I'm so interested. Like, I think this book is actually going to get me to read like the High Republic novels because I want to know, like you already know, like how does her personality evolve? Is she always this bitchy, or is this new for her? Or like, what is going on with her?
She's been through a lot. So yeah, it's she really resents having people butt into her life to
Hmm.
change what she wants to be doing from what I get.
Hmm.
Though not Venestra based, but yeah, when you start like honestly, Light of the Jedi had me just sitting there like, oh my god, like every like for the first act, just holy crap. So when you read it, I'd love to talk with you about it too. But
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. NC Fan 99 says, the droid attendants were my least favorite part too. If this is what I'm thinking about, it made my skin crawl. The implications of programming something specifically to act that way. Yeah, for sure. I know there was a droid that like really creeped me out, but like, because I just read the last few pages of today's section today. And so the one that I'm thinking about is the one that was like being overly flirty with them and like has her hips like really built out. And I appreciate the detail, but I'm also like, is that really necessary? I don't, do we really need all that happening right now? There's a lot.
I'm assuming Justina Ireland was basically doing a lot again, going back to that idea of like how someone treats their underlings, the
Mm-hmm.
servants, says a lot
Mm-hmm.
about the person. So
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And the whole spiced in was super creepy too. It's not that I disliked it. It was well done, but it was also like it was just creepy. You have all the Twi'lek guys in there that are like being creepy towards everyone and they start yelling at the boy on stage who's like doing a hot little dance or something, and then Nelson like whips them all, which was very satisfying.
Yeah, being able to cheer for the bad guy doing something that you're agreeing with is kind of
Oh, NC Fan 99, I missed this comment of yours that you made a couple of minutes ago, so I'll read it now. I think you were talking about the council members, right? You said, I think that to some extent or another, they're all acting from a place of fear. I liked it because that's a theme from the Acolyte. Yeah, good point. And the damage you can do when you act from a place of fear without considering others or thinking things through. Awesome point, actually. Yeah. The fear is a mainstay through the Acolyte, and it'll be interesting to see if that keeps popping up as a theme here too in this book. All righty. Any other thoughts about that? I'm going to move on to next question. Okay. All right. So I don't know if anyone here has finished the book yet. I know, Jamin, you said you're a little bit ahead of where we are today. But if you have read the whole book, definitely try not to spoil this part for those of us who haven't yet. But I will say that, of course, we have that incredibly brief mention of Vernestra's former Padawans, which was very exciting for all of us, I'm sure. So without spoiling, if you have read ahead, how much do you think we might actually learn about Khmer in this book? And you can come on speaker, or you can drop your comment in the, sorry for all the coughing. You can drop your comment in the thread if you would prefer to do that as well.
Yeah, I tagged all of those things. I feel like it's going to stay vague. I hate saying it, but I feel like it is. I'm only at 17, and like I said, I actually stopped reading when I realized how far we were going, because I didn't want to be the type like where I was like, oh crap, I know it's coming. I've accidentally talked about that, because I like to talk. So I was like, I'm stopping here. I'm good. Also, I have the hardcover book, so I was like, 75. Man, I'm at 133. I can stop here. I'm okay.
Right. Yeah. So we're definitely doing chapters from here on out, because I realize it's like, oh wait, Kindle messes things up from the books. It's like, that's not going to make sense.
I mean, a lot of that, when she's thinking about her past Padawans, pops up with that discussion again of like her talking about grief and loss. And there's very much a feeling that she does sort of talk about her failure in a way with her previous Padawan. And I think it's her most recent one that she's talking about too. But she's also very, she doesn't blame him or her previous Padawan, but a failure of like, it seems like she takes that as a failure of herself in a way. When she's thinking about like the grief and losing people thing too, right? It does seem to fit that whole thing. It fits in when she's thinking about her previous Padawans.
Yeah.
So it fits in with what we're kind of thinking when that brief moment, like where they where Khmer and her sense each other on Brendock, right? Where she's like, right. With the idea that she thinks he's dead. Now, basically, if he is the Padawan, Justine's been very, very vague about having Verdes think about him. But there is sort of a link there between where she's thinking about that and she's thinking about her past Padawans, about losing them. I mean, it's also very linked in with Verdesta thinking about her own master, Stellan, as well. Right? She's lost her master, but it all goes together. Like she's lost her Padawan too. And whatever happened there was a failure on her part. In some ways, it's very telling that she doesn't have another Padawan. She's not traveling around with another Padawan with her. She's doing it all by herself. While thinking about, like the loss of like people before. She seems to have accepted Stellan for all that, the Force comes to her and talks to her as Stellan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I just basically, just because this book is not actually that big, that it's going to stay vague again. But we might get more context there, just like I think we've already started to get that in a vague way. To circle.
In CFan 99, you have a couple of comments. Your first one is, I think that revelations about Khmer were being saved for season 2 of The Acolyte. They wouldn't want to split important information about him between the show and a book that not every show viewer might read. Yeah, that makes sense to me for sure. And your second one is, all of this also begs the question of when exactly what happened between Vernestra and Khmer happened, and just how old he is, because this book takes place well before the show. Oh yeah, excellent point for sure. Because Indara is only in like her late 20s right now, or early 30s, but later on she's going to be like in her 40s or early 50s. I don't know how old she is exactly, but she is older. So yeah, like when, like he did say it was a very long time ago. So I'm definitely in camp. Khmer is a lot older than he looks and sounds. Tirana, you said, I don't think we'll get a lot of info, but it did make me try to do the math for the time he would have been her Padawan. Yeah. To Brindok, to Kofar, it raises some questions about how old Khmer has to be, like in the last pour from the Save the Acolyte post. All right. Yeah, everyone's thinking about that. I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, how old are you, Khmer?
I mean, if we go by like, Carrie Ann Moss's age, she's 57 right now.
Right,
she was
yeah.
like in her early 50s when they were filming this. So if we go by that as the age of, say, what Indara is now, we know she's probably in her early 30s or so in the book.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking, about 2 decades there, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't know about Khmer either. So like, and it doesn't sound like Padawan loss was that recent, just enough that Vernestra was kind of like, I'm moving on from this type thing.
Oh my goodness.
It's still a top of mind. So, I mean,
all the layers.
I don't know if he's as old as like, like Vernestra, but he puts him he's got to be at least about this, like, he's got to be at least the same age as like, I want to say he has to be at least the same age as Indara or older, but.
Right, because she's been away for a decade.
Yeah.
Which I think you guys mentioned.
Yeah, and yeah, so, and it's, I mean, it would make Khmer much older than.
Yeah, he's got to be
as he's talking, but still, like, yeah.
At least in his like 40s or 50s, if not older.
Yeah, exactly. Looking pretty good for like, the maybe 60-year-old that he might likely be. I mean, it depends on how young he was when Vernestra thought he died too.
Right.
But
exactly. Yeah. But he's not a spring chicken. He's not in his 20s.
No, he's not.
Very interesting. Acolyte says, as someone who's only 50 pages in, that mention was a surprise, but I'm not sure if they'll talk more about it. Manifesting Beidou, though. I so hope that they say more about it. Don't leave us hanging too much. I want to see all this stuff on screen. Like, that's the priority. But I also would like some more crumbs, please. Please give me some more information. Por favor. I would appreciate that.
I would love to see more on screen, definitely. But you know, if they wanted to do a book series, I'm like, okay, fine. I'll take what you can give me, please, please, please. But at the same point, I want a TV show.
Right. It's actually, it's not so bad. I haven't like fully read a book through in like 5 years maybe. And so I was like, okay, hopefully I can like keep my attention to like read this book. And it's, once you get like into it, it's like, oh, okay, this is actually holding my attention. It's interesting. So yeah, I would take it. I prefer TV, like you said, but I would take book series, comic book series, whatever. Just finish the freaking story.
Yeah, I will. I'm resigned with Lucasfilm. I'll take what I can get. Please let this continue somehow. I mean, I would absolutely, like, if we aren't getting a TV series, and I really, really want to see it someday, but keeping Amandla involved with like helping write OSHA stuff. I've seen so many times where like, companies have worked with the actors to put out comic books and books that they're involved in actually writing and part of. And we know Amandla did so much background that she came up with and taught and so forth, like preparing for her role.
Yes.
I would love to see, like, give her a chance to be part of, like, writing with one of an author for, like, if they're not going to give us more.
Yes. That's an
I
awesome
would see
idea.
it's a good way of having her still involved to me if we're going to be disappointed in
Right.
that way. I won't say I won't be disappointed if I get a book announcement versus like a
Exactly.
TV series, but it'd be kind of cool. I'm a
Right.
reader, so in these books, Star Wars books are not they're not like huge gigantic novels like something you would see out of like Wheel of Time or whatever. They're good bites of story. They are well written, and they give us like they're written to a we want people to read these, not a oh my god, someone's picking this up and going, oh my god, how many pages does this have? What's going on?
Right. Yeah, it's like they're pretty readable. Actually, around the same time that I got this book on Kindle, I also got the Dark Disciple book with what's her name?
Nice.
Yeah.
Ventress. Yeah.
Yeah, Ventress. Thank you.
Ventress and Kinlan. Yes.
Yeah.
Christy Golden is an amazing writer, in my opinion. So
yeah. Yeah, it's a really good book too. And so I'm just enjoying both these books so much. Acolyte also says, I really wish I could read the backstory that Amandla wrote for me and Osha. If I remember correctly, she had at least 50 pages or maybe even more. Yes, we need that. I agree with you. we need that very badly. Give us 100%. The backstory. Right. Actually, as soon as the Acolyte ended, I know all of us, like our brains were on fire and we started like drawing fanfic and drawing fan art and writing fanfic and like doing all sorts of creative things. It was amazing. Acolyte Summer was so good and so pure. So as soon as the show ended, I started writing this fic, which I don't think I'll ever finish because I like wrote myself into a corner, unfortunately. But I started writing a fic just because I wanted to know so badly how May got off the freaking planet.
Just sit on it. If it you'll sit on it and just like don't necessarily go back to it for a bit. Give yourself some time to percolate, and maybe you'll come up with something, even if you feel you're in a corner right now.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, the corner I got into specifically was that I wrote that there was like, the planet wasn't totally empty and there was like, some people had like a smuggling base and she ended up on one of those ships somehow. But then I was like, that doesn't make sense. So now I'm trying to figure out like, how does she get off the planet? But I will sit on it. Maybe I shouldn't give up on it so soon.
Yeah, I know. There's all sorts of stuff you can come up with like that. But if you let me go. Like, have you actually published? And now I'm going into. Have you published it on fan fiction or anything yet? Because I will like on AO3. I don't know. Maybe I could like beta with you and help you.
Hey, I totally would appreciate that. I will take you up on that. So yeah, for sure. I will
say the beta I worked with for my Oceanmere fic made it so much better than it was too. So it's nice to have someone to bounce ideas off of sometimes.
Awesome. Nice. Okay, I'm excited. Maybe I'm gonna keep writing. I'm gonna go back to it. Don't worry, Thick. You won't sit there on my computer forever. You'll go out into the world. Thank you.
I'm an encourager. We need more Acolyte fic. It shows the the world how much people like it too, and not just the Oceanmere stuff because like that's predominant, right? But stuff that is like showing that people are just interested in that aspect of the world, I think is a good thing too.
Nice. NCFan99 said, I'm afraid that if the show is uncanceled, subsequent seasons may come with a ton of unneeded and unwanted executive interference from Disney as they respond to perceived quote-unquote flaws and the way that they have with their live-action remakes. Yeah, it's the executive opinions have been depressing, to say the least, because I just don't understand how you greenlight the show and don't understand like what you're really getting into by greenlighting the show. The United States is such a divided place right now. You already know that there are so many like these white supremacist trolls out here that hate anything with Black people in it. They do this every single time, but you're going to act all like surprised Pikachu face that they did the exact same thing. That doesn't make sense. So Like, oh my God, they like left review bombing and we don't like the bad reviews, so we're going to cancel it. We're going to panic. Like, what? You guys need to have a long-term plan, like freaking Amazon did with Rings of Power. It doesn't make sense to panic and pull the plug at all.
Mm-hmm. I feel it's definitely like, just from like the way I've kind of seen things like discussed about how they do most Star Wars stuff, like Tony Gilroy with Andor and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
That they put trust in their creators, and it's outside of Lucasfilm that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
At the Disney level, because Kathleen Kennedy, everyone who like is actually a creator in Star Wars, talks about how she champions what they're doing and the decisions they're making.
For sure.
Even Leslie said that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and like, so it seems like it's coming from up and above even her. I don't know. Like, Dave Filoni seems to have just the creative freedom to do whatever the heck he wants, no matter what.
Right.
Which is, I love Ahsoka, but at the same, and I love
it's
all
a
the
good
Tales
and a
stuff
bad
that
thing.
we're getting, but yeah. I want, yeah, I don't want to get into like, politics. Oh my God. Except that, Disney is actually being investigated for DEI stuff right now by the American government. So I think that's going to be where we're going to come into like an issue even there, right? Like, I think that's the type of thing that's going to hold off from us seeing anything more, because like, right now they're trying to do like the reverse racism DEI. We're investigating you because maybe you aren't giving white people enough, like that's what the government, it looks like, is doing. That they're saying people are interpreting DEI policies wrong, type thing. And that's going to have effect on everything that's going on with Disney.
Right.
And it's everything underneath them. Marvel right now seems to be doing like, giving like the middle finger, like whatever, and Disney seems fine to let them do that. But Star Wars just doesn't see, like, has like the opposite thing. It's too bad.
It's really discouraging. Like, how is Marvel, like you said, how is Marvel just like, yeah, we're just gonna keep making things with people of color and with women, and we're not gonna care. And Star Wars is totally pulling the rug. Like, nope, only white men from here on out.
Like, the only thing I can think of in the difference there is the fact that the MCU has all the comic book basis too. So bring out a hero that can say, look, we're doing this hero and this is what
based on the comics,
whatever was in the comics.
Yeah.
So we're doing that story. Versus Star Wars, which when they're breaking new ground, they're breaking new ground.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good point.
So, and they didn't do like, the EU, though Dave is being very happy to bring that back in on the references from EU that show up too, even in the High Republic and the Acolyte and that as well.
Yeah.
They're pulling in what they like from it all for like their stuff, right? But it's not the same thing as saying, like, well, Black Panther is black, like MCU. We can't do the story any other way. This is an African story.
Exactly. That's how it was written.
Yeah, like Riri for Ironheart coming out. Same thing. We can't do this story any other way because, like,
she's been a character for 9 years. Yeah.
So MCU can get away with it a lot better, and like they're not going to sit there and say, we're just gonna like say that this character is gonna all of a sudden be a white character when, like, there's a really big basis for why they're like like Latino or African American or whatever, right? Or in Echo's case, Indigenous. So it's one of those things that I think that's why MCU gets to get away with it a bit better, and Marvel and Disney just kind of go, and it'll get the audience that they need. We don't care if the audience is lower because it's a specific story for specific people, and we're happy to do that. We'd love to bring in other people, but we understand. We look at Wakanda and the Black Panther story stuff. Well, you know what? That right there is we can get out big crowds with this and we don't give a crap.
Yeah. Just such a frustrating part of history we're in right now.
It really is. Feels like things have regressed so much, but anyways, I want Disney Lucasfilm to like push that edge too, right? I want to see more, and like I'm so just this is getting so far away from the book, damn it. But I want to see like that Finn, and like I want that story more than comics. Anyways,
but getting back to the book, Those are all excellent thoughts, though. Absolutely love those thoughts.
Yeah, it gets further away. As I said, I like to talk and I go on tangents, but
I love it. Getting back to the book, we had one of Vernestra's visions in this section that we read up to, which was interesting. As you brought it up earlier, where she sees Stellan in her vision, and the whole thing was really interesting. It was my first time reading, because I haven't read any High Republic books. It was my first time reading one of her visions, and it described it like sometimes it was more like a jolt, but this time it was like being cradled in someone's arms, and she was on a boat, and they were fishing, and he handed her the fishing rod, and she wakes up with her lightsaber in her hand, which seems very dangerous.
Or she didn't make it to her bed. I'm like, oh,
right.
That's dangerous. You're falling, and like, right. The force is not very nice to her sometimes.
Right. So, I want to know what you guys think about the vision. Like any thoughts that you have about it? I think for me, I liked how peaceful it was. It made me interested in who Stellan is and learning about him. And you know, since I'm really into the whole like visions thing and like how those all work, I was interested in the, how do I say, the purpose, I guess, that the Force was trying to bring her to. Like, she thinks that it has to do with finding this device among the pirates, which, you know, is a good thing to find, because that would be bad if it spread. But it is interesting to think about, okay, well, why is this so important? What is this leading up to? Force works in mysterious ways.
Other people speak up. Come on.
Oh, I see. Apothecary Kamir, you said I'm excited for that May fic. Okay, awesome. That's very encouraging. I accept it. Yeah, man. My brain was just like, you gotta write this. Yeah, so any thoughts? And it could be too early also to really form an opinion about the vision in the first place. Like, it's a thing that happened and we don't really know what it's going to lead up to. But if you have a thought about the vision, you can leave your comment in the thread. Oh, what do we got here? See, some comments have been left. Are they going to load for me? Let's see if they load for me. Twitter is so broken these days. All right, hold on. I'm going to go back.
I'm not seeing any new. Oh, 14. There's someone. Where is it? I'm like, I keep going in here, like trying to. Yeah. As you said, Twitter is like. I mean, I haven't been on Twitter for like months. I reactivated my account. I retook back. If it was deleted, it was gone. I have like a brand new account, but I managed to get my name back.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, I'm like scrolling through it, going, "Oh my god, this is so annoying!" Trying to like just bring up the new comments type thing. Where are they? It's
well, I see.
I see Val. Is that much better, but we don't have.
I see Val's. You said I haven't got to the part yet, unfortunately, but I'm excited to read it. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I see. I think you said you only read up to page 50, if I remember correctly. I'm not confusing you with someone else. Yeah, you said you only read up to page 50, which is fine. But yeah, anybody have any thoughts about that? And if not, that's cool too. We'll just keep chugging along.
I think my thoughts on the division is it's an interesting way the Force chooses to interact with her. Directly taking the form of a mentor and someone she like obviously like she cared a lot about, who still speaks in like riddles to her,
right,
in comparison with some of the other like Force type visions that have been shown to us, like, you know, visually through the Star Wars series. That was interesting.
Yeah,
Just the
like,
way they
what
happen
other
for
types
her.
of
So,
visions are you thinking of?
yeah. Well, I'm thinking, you know, like Anakin's visions when he has them in like Rise of the and like Attack of the Clones, Rise of the Sith.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, the Force visions that I think Osha had, even when she was seeing her sister,
Mhm.
stuff like that, right? It's like that was a little bit more like, okay, yes, we can see that there is metaphor and whatever else going on here too, but it was also very much a hi, this is your sister type thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Versus like actually talking to her, putting her
Mhm.
into a situation and talking to her versus like just giving her like a glimpse of something.
Yeah.
It was an interesting way of like deciding to do that. Um Making her still have to like figure out what the Force is like referring to.
Right.
Uh,
Like, what is going on here? And it's almost a little bit scary now that I think about it too, to like not be shown something more directly like those other visions that Anakin and Osha had, like you mentioned, but to have the Force like just speaking to you through a familiar face, even when it's like, oh hey Vern, and she was like, oh Stella never called me Vern. And it's like, oh sorry. It's like that was kind of creepy. It's like, oh that's not Stellan. That's the Force wearing his face to be friendly, which is good, but also very creepy. I don't think I would like to have visions like that were so directly like, oh, the Force is this consciousness that's around me that's kind of always paying attention to me. Makes it a little bit too like direct to be comfortable with. I like to. I would be comfortable if it was kind of more inanimate, but this makes it more conscious. It's like, oh, that's disturbing.
yeah, it's like it's actually like it's imitating like someone and talking to her. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like having like a shapeshifter. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's also, gosh, intrusive. Like, for one thing, intrusive into like her
Right.
memories of like Stellan, but also intrusive in like the minute she goes into hyperspace and it's like, boom,
Right.
you have no control here. I'm doing this
Right.
to you.
Like she can't
Like,
relax.
mhm.
It's terrible.
Yep.
Poor Vanestra. She deserves better than to have all these hyperspace visions.
Well, I can kind of see now, like, you know, Pog or whatever there with the, you know, it's trying to like, he was trying to be vague about it for her, I think, but you know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, like hyperspace. No, that.
Yeah, in the show. He said you have like episodes and she's like, I don't have episodes. I have visions. It's different.
I have a really intrusive thing that decides it's just going to take over, and I don't like it.
Right. Totally different situation. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next question. Let's see, where do I want to go? I kind of jumped around a little bit actually on my list. So, okay, let's go here. My next question is about the device, right? That they find, the device that turns off their lightsabers. So, it's interesting because they're so shocked by it, like something turned off our lightsabers. So the way that they're so shocked, of course, brought me back immediately to when Kamir's armor is tearing off people's lightsabers, and they're like, "Oh, we can't handle this." So that was kind of cool to have that like little precursor to in this story to Kamir doing that to Jedi later. And what are the implications of that, if any? Is it a coincidence? Did it give people ideas? Um, is it just like the universe is tired of these Jedi and once their lightsabers gone?
Oh, no talking about the next 7 chapters. Yeah, it's what I think is just like the two of them seeing that being very like, you know, like what like both like managing to like, okay, like deal with it and get through it, right? But at the same point, it's really distressing to me that that's popping up there with some random pirates on some planet.
Right.
And yet we get to the Acolyte a couple decades later and no one's prepared for it at all.
Yeah, that's true.
So that is concerning.
Yeah. Like the Jedi seem to just across all of these stories, they seem to be pretty bad about like carrying forth lessons, like which is a thing a thing that people do in real life. So I'm not saying like they should be singled out for doing this, but a lot of organizations will learn a lesson 50 years or 100 years or 500 years pass, and they've completely forgotten the lesson, have to learn again. The Jedi do that too a lot. They don't really, something bad happens and they just leave it there and don't carry it on. It's not super encouraging.
Nothing incorporated into training to deal with what happens if your lightsaber fails. Like,
right. Yeah. Like they can't even imagine it happening. Like nothing can turn off a lightsaber, but then some things do.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing,
that's my kind of reaction, like right now into the introduction of the nullifier. So,
the nice thing about Vernestra and Indara just going off against a couple of dumb pirates is it didn't throw them off too much. Right, they could still fight against them, and they were able to improvise and still hold their own, even though their lightsabers were off. But all those Jedi in the forest with Kamir, the total wipeout. Like that's not they were totally unprepared, and they got killed really badly because they were so unprepared. Any other thoughts about that? If you want to leave in the comments or come on to speaker, either way works for us.
Come on and speak to us. Speak to us. Come on. I know there's only like 6 of us here, but come on, people. It'd be nice to like.
I love the comments too, though. Comments are fun.
Comments are good. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, this cough is just so annoying. It's not even like it doesn't like hurt or like I don't have a cold. It's just like my lungs are permanently irritated for the last 4 weeks. I'm so over it.
That's where I kind of go with is there something in your area that, like is blooming or allergy or something? I mean,
yeah,
irritate, and that can be like, rather than just stuffing up, just sort of irritating your lungs as you breathe it in. I don't know.
DC is really bad about pollutants because we have a lot of flowering trees. So when they all start flowering, it really goes crazy with like all the allergies, like the runny nose and the sneezing and the craziness. But it's really just the last 3 or 4 years that this like long lingering cough has like showed up. So I don't even know. Wish I could figure it out.
And this is where I go, did you get COVID? Because
I hope not.
All that has to do
everything COVID all the time.
Enough to kind of like leave them like littlest thing irritating sometimes. That's been my experience. But
yeah, that's a good point.
I also have allergies and stuff too, so it gets like having like I find there's a link there, and that like my if I get irritated from allergies now, it happens a lot easier. But
yeah, no, that's a good point actually, because I said 3 to 4 years. That's about when COVID came out, and I probably had it at least like 2 or 3 times during.
I think it's something that no one's really like thinking about right now. But it's things that are at least our doctors and researchers are thinking about.
Interesting.
Afraid they get more money to keep going with that sort of thing. But lowered immune system responses and stuff like that, and heightened immune system responses in a way too. So
I love it. Thank you. That's actually super helpful.
I don't know. Just is something that might be why, I've been coughing a lot more too, and it does coincide with my yearly allergies. So I'm a spring fall person usually. So there's always something kind of during those times.
Interesting. I see Apothecary Kamir left a comment here said, I really love that scene with the nullifier and Vernestra just shifted to using the force and objects in the room to fight unfazed. It was so badass. Absolutely. It was just like she did a really good job fighting. She was like, guess what? I don't need a lightsaber. I'm going to take you guys out anyway. You thought you had me, but you did not.
Here's something else, though. That whole scene where we have Indara watching Vernestra fight the pirates.
Yeah.
What? Does that remind you in any ways of Chimera taking on the Jedi in like episode 5?
Oh.
Just seamlessly switching and starting to use the force again, like to pull them at her, stuff like that. I am seeing a like description of a fight style that's very, very similar.
Yes, you nailed something really important.
He's just way more aggressive about it, whereas she's doing this is a duty and a routine, something I'm doing to like save people. He's like, he enjoyed it. Yes.
Yeah, that you nailed that. Like it's the same kind of description, super fluid, not being held back by any sort of obstacles, going from person to person, really effortlessly. Yep.
Yeah, very well written. And if Justina like was paying attention to how they did like when she was writing Chimera's fight style, it gives more, to that whole like who he learned from.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that. Okay, so that scene just took on like so much more context now, just because of that. Thank you so much, Jamie. That's awesome.
It was just something I was kind of thinking about because we for that fight we see it from Indara's point of view more.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that we can, and it gives you a much better visual than like, But yeah, it's very much the same sort of thing, just visually like flowing between and just like a momentary. Oh, you did that.
Right.
With her lightsaber, and then just continuing. So,
amazing.
Which was in very much the same way as like, Yord grabbing the helmet and doing the same thing back to him. But at the same time, Chimera just basically going, "Oh, you did that. Okay."
Yes, that was really cool. I'm probably going to reread that scene after this space, just because just to reanalyze it now with that new information. That's super cool. Hey, welcome to the space, Cyrilla. Great to see you. Are wonderful, making the memes every day. Such a badass. I love your memes. I love them. I try to retweet them as often as possible because they're so amazing. All right, so moving on to the next question. Only got a couple more questions left. Poor Indara at this stage. Should Indara have been left alone? What do you guys think of the council's decision to send her out, to pull her away from her books and her archiving, send her out into the world? Poor girl. She just wanted to do her archiving. She just wanted to learn some history. I really identify with that. It's fun learning history. It's not fun dealing with pirates. What are your guys' thoughts? You can leave a comment in the comment section. You can come on speaker if you want to come on speaker. Love to know anything.
Honestly, agreed with Yaddle.
Yeah, okay.
Because she was hiding.
You got to get out.
She was not facing what had happened. She was for all it's great to have researchers and so on and so forth. The reason she was doing it was not for that. She was hiding, and Yaddle. I mean, if Yaddle's of the same type of like as Vernestra in a way, right? That it's very much you're not doing this right. I'm going to show you how you should be doing this. You need to deal with this. You need to be back out there. You need to face it, confront it. Yeah. And it's the same reason that and to be honest, the same reason she sends Indara out to get Vernestra for Vernestra. You are running away and hiding away from what you should be doing. And while you're doing good things out there, just like Indara was doing good things with her research, you also are needed for other things as well.
Yeah, so, that's a good point. They're doing the same thing.
Both of them are hiding in different ways. So.
That's a very good point. I like that. NC Fan 99 said, I think it's classic, well-intended, but clumsy. We're making you do something we think will help you instead of speaking to you earnestly about your problems, Jedi guidance.
That too.
Yeah, I can see that too. I can see that too, for sure. They don't like to really just speak to each other, do they?
But
Mm-hmm.
you can see how it could be detrimental. Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
where Yoda and Yaddle come in, I guess. Hey?
Yeah, everything's really indirect. And of course that didn't work out for Anakin because he wasn't really good at taking those indirect lessons. He really needed someone to like just give him a hug.
Honestly, I don't think Obi-Wan was either.
Mm.
I think you know, I think just from what we saw, like with like Qui-Gon himself was a very, I don't know, Qui-Gon actually reminds me in some ways of what they show with Stellan with the Force, in that they were both, like very kind of like in the moment people, like didn't really, like, and I think that passed on between Obi-Wan to Anakin in that way of like Obi-Wan didn't take hints very well either. I think.
Yeah, no, good. I like that. I like that observation for sure. And it's a good point too about Qui-Gon and Stellan. I'm really excited to read about Stellan in some book in the future.
I'm sure Stellan I'm going to be disappointed by, just because what I'm seeing right now is the Force is Stellan. I don't know, or maybe I'll like him better. I don't know. But the way the Force is kind of portraying him reminds me of kind of how we're getting like Qui-Gon in the like TV shows as a mentor time is showing up now, and so forth. Same way Obi-Wan did with like Yoda in the original series as a Force ghost, stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost just waiting for the same thing to happen with Anakin and like Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, it's sort of getting a little off, but it also very much informs in on like Saul as a master for Osha too, right? In that way that they don't talk about things.
Yeah.
No one thought about, taking this traumatized girl and making sure she'd be taken care of.
Big time, for sure.
And like deal with her like trauma and grief. No one thought to like talk, other than like Andara's kind of like needling him about it.
Yeah.
Talk to Saul about his need for a connection, to wanting a Padawan so badly.
Yeah.
It was more like a like ribbing him about wanting one so badly, sort of thing. But no one's like, there were issues. There's obviously something underlying there that he's so single-minded about it.
Mm-hmm.
And no one thought to talk to him about that.
Like what is going on here? Yeah. We need to talk to you. What's your issue?
Like no one deals with like their emotions,
right,
in the show,
right?
And we're showing the same sort of thing here on with like Indara and being sent out to get Vernestra. And Vernestra, she talks about how she does say that she's still learning how to do it, right? She deals with things sort of, but she's avoiding that confrontation of what happens when she goes back to like Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more probably about like just she knows what kind of duties are going to put on her because of her experience and time and so forth, and she doesn't want that. Yeah, but she's not dealing with it head on either, right? She's like avoiding it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great observation, NC, about the classic, well-intended but clumsy. We're making you do something we think will help you instead of speaking to you earnestly. I'm going to retweet that. Sean reposted. Oh, I just lost my place. Oh, there we go. Acolyte said, Yaddle has been really fun in this book so far. I hope we get a lot more of her. I love Yaddle so much. She's the best. She's just so cool. Apothecary Kamir says, Indara watching in awe as Vernestra fights so fluidly, so many opponents. Reminds me of Osha waking up and watching the stranger battling multiple Jedi in the forest. Yeah, exactly what we were just talking about. Great minds think alike. It's a lot, and again, like I love reading the book, but it would also be nice to see it on screen. I want to see Vernestra fighting on screen. I want to see all this stuff and how they would make it look.
Rebecca, we want to see you in combat. Yes.
Yes, with the whip.
If she like listens to this later, since she apparently knows about it.
Right. Yeah, I just think it's so interesting. The impression I got, I might have been wrong, but the impression I got was that she was like switching her whip on and off while she was fighting them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which sounds like it would probably look amazing.
We could have had that in season 2.
I need it. I need it. I need it so bad. Yeah, I guess my thoughts on Indara and whether like I agree with both of you that what you've said, that she did need to get out there and like not let her traumas suppress her for so long, because you really can just disappear into a hole and like lose yourself and like never come up for air ever again. And we don't want that for her. She deserves better. So, you know, sometimes you need to give people a little bit of tough love. And on the other hand, true, like you said, and see that the Jedi need to handle these things better than they do. And they didn't, which is why they stopped existing. Because if they had, then Anakin wouldn't have gone apeshit on them. But it would have been nice if they had kind of developed a way to not be so like standoffish and be a little bit more warm and really pay attention to feelings as people are having them, because people still have feelings. You can tell people to be detached from their feelings, but that's not something they're going to perfect overnight. They're not, or like even after years and years and years, like emotions are tricky and not everyone is going to be great at handling that. And they didn't really integrate that into their whole training process. Or they said, like, if you're still having emotions, like Osha was having emotions, they're like, you're just not going to be a Jedi anymore, which is pretty mean too. So, let's see. Any more thoughts about that?
Parallel that I got now from you saying that last little bit. In the show, there's, you know, it mentioned going back, like, you know, to like, it was Indara saying that she wasn't going to, like, you know, she shouldn't be a Jedi, right? Like basically as part of like the catalyst for Osha like leaving. And I'm like, there's a parallel, you know, like never learned the lesson, apparently.
Right. Never learned the lesson. Yeah, it's crazy. Indara. I like Indara, but yeah, she just you gotta be a little quicker. Okay. Let's see. Second to last question. Why does Vernestra have so much fun messing with Indara? She was really
well, when you're 100 years old, maybe you just maybe you just need some, like, you know, something to be fun for a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Giving her a hard time. For Indara's, like, she won all that.
Vernestra is very insightful. I mean, she does sort of like first, like, she recognizes, you know, like Indara's age and experience, but she also sees her, I think exactly what, you know, she also sees her as, because this person's been doing research, and like, as she does see her as naive, right? She and all of a sudden this person's out here with her in what could be a dangerous situation, and there is that part of her that's just kind of like, she's testing her. She's also like, but I think she's also just going to be herself with her there, right? So part of it is just, you know, like, but yeah, when you're like as old as, like, you know, Vernestra is, and which is still, I think, middle-aged or whatever for her race, you see a lot. And I think part of it was just, it was fun, and maybe that's just in way what she's used to with people who are her friends and like and so forth, right? Her friends and colleagues. She's used to being able to like just sort of like say what she wants and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Being able to be like more blunt and not have it be such a problem. But it is a problem if you're just going to speak your mind like that and not really care what other people are thinking or feeling. And yeah, and Indara is clearly getting ruffled and you just don't care and you're having fun with it. It's like, oh man, yeah, it's rough.
I will say, she does change that up in the next few chapters, which if you've gotten like, yeah, it's really interesting to watch her go back and forth between kind of the, like, as it goes forward, at least for the 7 chapters I read beyond, she kind of does the, honestly, her with Indara there at the beginning, I think is really, it's not the act. And then later we get to see her do the act. So.
Okay, that's encouraging. Yeah, it's a good book. It gets better the more you read. So I'm encouraged to read the next section that we'll be reading, which, by the way, since we have people here, before I ask the last question, I will just say that our next session for next Saturday, same time, same channel, we're going to be reading to the end of chapter 19. Then the week after that, the end of chapter 28. And then the week after that, the end of the book. And that will be the session for this book. And I think the next Acolyte book actually comes out pretty soon after that, like June or July. But we'll take some suggestions for some other sort of space ideas to do after we finish with this book and before the next book comes out. So next week, next Saturday, if you could read to the end of chapter 19, that's where we'll be speaking to, and that's what we'll be talking about. And so the last question I have for us today is, what are our overall thoughts this far in the story? No matter what you're thinking, what are you thinking so far? And you can leave your thoughts in the comments. You can come on the speaker, whatever works for you. I think for me so far, I would say I've mentioned already a couple times that I feel encouraged. I haven't actually read a book all the way through in quite a while, like five or 6 years. And so I was worried when I wanted to read it because I love The Acolyte, but I was worried that I would start to read it and be like, oh my God, I can't keep attention, but it's holding my attention and it's interesting. And I like the descriptions. I like the characters. The characters are really well written. And the story is pretty interesting. I like how they're dropping little things that seem like they're going to get bigger the more we read, like the whole thing with this device that's turning off the lightsabers. So I'm pretty into it. Looking forward to seeing where we get to. Let's see. Did we get a comment? My notifications for the space says there's a comment, but it's not showing up. Oh wait, there it is. Yeah, Valkalite. You said, I really like how Indara and Vernestra are currently opposites when it comes to where they stand. Vernestra has been a Wayseeker for 10 years and barely visited Coruscant, whereas Indara used to be on other places and is now in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant as an archivist. Yeah, that's really cool, for sure. Complete opposites. Vernestra's been out in the galaxy, having all these adventures, and Indara's been a total shut-in for the last year. So yeah, which is probably causing a lot of that friction between them as well, which is very satisfying. It's a good friction. It's like, I love seeing these people fight.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with all of your kind of viewpoints there on like this first bit of it. It's a good start. It's intriguing, like story that has been, that is got me like interested in where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of insight into both characters right off the bat in the first 10 chapters there.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically a lot of like who they are and what's going on with them. And I love the idea that, in some ways Indara, they're an odd couple, like team up, like just like any sort of like odd couple type movie, you know, like there's the underlying like Jedi sameness, but they're very different people too.
Yes.
So and I always like that kind of like odd couple type team up, right? You know, the
me too.
Yeah.
It's like those opposites attract, and well, not even attract, but are paired together against their will.
Yeah. So it, you know, like honestly, like sometimes you need a little bit of friction in a story there to like have it, right?
Definitely.
And I think the friction like is also meant to like, you know, further their character developments and stuff too. So it's a well developed, well written beginning for me.
Yes, I love it.
That links and it all links in thematically with like, you know, they're calling it like the Acolyte WAYSEEKER, right? It all links in thematic like going forward too, and going backwards in the rest of the High Republic. So it's
Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the title is going to really come into play and all the different sorts of meanings that the title has for the actual rest of the plot of the book. I'm looking forward to that.
They're not necessarily saying, you know, like, I mean, they are saying High Republic, right?
Yeah.
But they very, very much highlighted this is an Acolyte story.
Yes.
So like that to me says something about what they're planning with this, maybe any follow-up stuff like that, right? It's High Republic, but it's Acolyte based, and maybe even that's just because there's two characters from it. But at the same point, these are two characters that had very profound influences on the story we see in the TV show. So
definitely. And yeah, that goes back to some of the earlier conversation too, when we were talking about how the former Padawan she had, which we can assume was Khmer, was brought up, and how, you know, this device that makes their lightsabers stop working kind of mirrors what Khmer does later with his armor, and how there are these parallel themes. Is like, definitely, I was thinking that exact thing, like reading the book. It's really cool that this is an Acolyte story, even though it's High Republic, it's based in that whole theme. Is going to tie into themes around the Acolyte specifically, so we can really understand the Acolyte better. So that's going to be exciting to like get into that. Any additional thoughts? If you want to leave it as a comment or come on the speaker, whichever works for you. Apothecary Khmer says, "This is my first Star Wars novel because I love the Acolyte so much." Yeah, I wasn't sure if I'd actually like reading it, but I've been enjoying it so far. It makes me love Vernestra and adds to my interest in her history leading up to the Acolyte timeline. Yep, exactly. Same thing. Retweeted because I love that. You know, it's good. I'm super glad that I'm glad that they made a good story for the Acolyte that we can all love so much, because I was really rooting for it before it came out. I was like, this has to succeed. And, you know, of course, everything that happened. But as far as being a good story that's well made, they succeeded there. It's an excellent story that's really well made. So I'm really happy for that. And I'm happy that this novel is like pretty well written so far. And hopefully it like is well written throughout. But I'm just loving that we're actually getting this excellent, good content. It's very satisfying to me. Okay, any other thoughts we got here? You comment or you want to talk? And we have a few minutes left, so if you want to talk about whatever, free talk. I have no more questions. So whatever you want to talk about, it's perfectly cool.
I'm just going to say thank you for hosting this type of space again.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's awesome. And getting to talk about like a book sort of thing. I actually made sure I put this into my phone to remind me so I wouldn't miss it.
Oh, awesome.
With the timer enough that I'm like, dinner is ready before this starts, so I'm not in the middle of cooking it when it starts. Being Central Standard Time, I'm like, 6 o'clock. Oh.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I'm so happy that you came on and shared a whole bunch of like really interesting and awesome thoughts with us, and everyone that's like been sharing thoughts with us through the comments too, because it's been a really good discussion, so I'm really happy. I just shared one of Cyrilla's memes. Everybody go follow her if you don't follow her already, because her daily memes are so good. And it's really cool to see her in the space, and I hope you will pick up the book and read it and catch up with us for the end of chapter 19 next Saturday, which is where we're going to be at. I think I have one more new comment. Do I have? You know, the Twitter is telling me that there's new comments. And sometimes I scroll and it's like, nope. It's like,
yeah, I'm trying to find them too. I'm like, I went up into the settings here because I've got my settings are all like, and I keep having to choose latest instead of relevancy, just so I can find them.
Let me do that. Can I? Let's see.
That's how it's kind of working. It's bringing them up
most
now
recent,
with whatever the latest one, but it's still.
Yeah, it's hit or miss. We have most of the comments here, so I'm glad for that. But it's been very hit or miss today. You got to tell Elon Musk, hey, get your shit together.
Can you not acknowledge that man at all? I don't know. I hate that he owns it.
He's the worst. He's genuinely the worst. I hate him so much. I don't think I've genuinely like hated a person as much as I hate Elon Musk.
There's that whole group that I'm just like,
yeah.
Anyways,
yeah. It's a bad time. It's a good time because we have the Acolyte. We have this lovely group of people. You're all amazing. But it's a bad time because we have all the rest of them, and they're not amazing at all. They're the opposite of amazing.
Yeah. Anyways, like, stop getting rid of latest Twitter. I want that, not relevancy.
I know. I think maybe it's like confusing like retweets for comments, or if someone made a comment and I'm not seeing it, I apologize. Feel free to come on speaker and let us know.
I honestly think the newest comment was just me with the, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good so far. It's the same as like when you're walking the Acolyte, like, but it's really good, people.
Yeah. Okay. It's 8:30 over here, East Coast. I think I'm gonna go ahead and end it here unless we have any like last thoughts that you guys have. Any last thoughts? Going once, going twice. And you can leave it as a comment if you want to. Hopefully it'll come up because some of them are and some of them aren't.
We'll pay attention to the comics for this little bit if no one wants to talk, but people should talk. Please come talk.
All right, awesome. I think we're gonna leave it off here then. Thanks again to all you guys for showing up for the book club part 1. It was really fun. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you had a lot of fun. And we'll be here again next Saturday, reading up to the end of chapter 19, just before chapter 20. And it's gonna get more exciting, I have a feeling. So yeah, awesome. We'll see you next Saturday. See you around online, and may the force be with you all. Bye.